Good morning. Very nice to finally meet you in person. My consultant team and I have heard that your company, Hitstar, is in the market for developing a new game. Now, I may not know what your target market is, but if it's aiming towards a teen and above, then Mando, I have the answer for you. Dating simulation. You see, it's all about, oh, you're not in the market for that? That's okay. We have many more genres to look at. So to help you and your company to be on the right foot when making your new game, we took a look at the very popular Steam website, which hosts a wide variety of games that consumers access, buy, and download every day, and leaves us a lot of data to look at and analyze for your next steps. We have taken your questions into consideration with what type of data we've gathered and how we've analyzed that. These video game points should help us answer your questions about what to look at in the video game market, such as would a large amount of positive reviews influence how many consumers purchase the game and in return like it? Are there any languages out there that are dominating the gaming industry besides English that we should be aware of? And what gaming genre is the most popular nowadays and would attract the greatest number of consumers if the game is based off of that genre? Or would that genre currently be oversaturated to attract new players? We hope our analysis of the data and of your questions helps you decide where to begin with your new Hit Start project.
So let me walk you through the project framework. We fetch the app ID, which is the game ID at the Steam website, and we filter to the top 1,000 most played games, since it made sense to have a good quality data from a popular website. Then we use the app ID to access individual game pages on the Steam website. And for the navigation part, we use Selenium. And from these pages, we pulled out the regex for our analysis, and we took out attributes like app ID, game name, like percentages, single player or multiplayer game, system compatibility, like on operating systems, like is it a Windows, a Mac OS system, DLC. Then we took all this data and stored into a SQLite 3 database. From there, we pulled the data and did our analysis to find out which is the most popular game that a Hitstar company should be developing. So for analysis part, we did the descriptive paired t-test analysis, decision tree modeling, and regression modeling. Now let me take you through the visualization that we've done out of few of the analysis. First, it's the graph between the amount of reviewers and the like percentages. We can see that the maximum amount of the reviewers are between the like percentage 80 to 100. Now talking about the most popular languages that these games support. In the graph, you can see that English, German, and French are the most popular languages that are there in most of the games. If you see, there is a little difference between German, French versus to English, but there is not much difference between German and French. So if we have a game which supports one of these three languages, it's highly likely that it will be for the right audience. Now talking about the game genres. Game genres, I was surprised to see the result. Action, indie, adventure, and RPG are the top four, and they are, and the last one is simulation. The first one, action game, has a good number, 515, followed by indie and adventure and RPG, where there is not very huge difference, but yeah. So if people are playing action games, so we should be preparing or developing a game which is really some action adventure RPG game. And if we talk about the operating systems, Windows is the unbeaten king. It has a market capture of more than 50%. Mac and Linux are not that popular. This can be because of the Windows architecture or freely availability or its popular nature. From here, Chen will take over for the analysis in depth. Over to you, Chen.
Let's move on to our descriptive analysis. We analyze three variables, like percentage, Metacritic score, and the number of the reviewers. For the first descriptive analysis is for the percentage like and the number of reviewers. The count is 989 because some games haven't been released yet. The average of like percentage 84.35 with a standard deviation of 12.23. The average of the number of reviewers is 64,543. The second descriptive analysis for the games which has Metacritic score, and we found the average of like percentage is 88.8. Metacritic score is 83.92, and the number of the reviewer is 115,000. Next, we conduct a parity test to check if there is a significant differences between like percentage and the Metacritic score. We did this parity test because the review from the normal player and the professional ranking website might be different. Like percentage is the rank score from the normal player, and the Metacritic score is the ranking score from the professional ranking website. Before running a parity test, we test three assumptions of the parity test, and they pass the test. Then we perform the parity test. Based on our result, we found the p-value is a very small number, which indicating there's a significant differences between like percentage and the Metacritic score. The difference is about 11. Let's move on to our regression model. We use linear regression and the stats model API to build a model for like percentage and the Metacritic score. We split the data into 75% in the training and 25% in the validation dataset. For the model of like percentage, we found the mean absolute percentage error is about 10.16% on the training data and 10.67% in the validation data. This means there's no overfitting issue since the differences between these two numbers was just around 2.65%. However, the R-square and the adjusted R-square were both low, indicating the low accuracy of this model. For a model of the Metacritic score, we found a serious overfitting issue. The mean absolute percentage error was 3.9% on the training data. However, it's around 49 billion% on the validation data. The differences between these two data was significant, indicating a serious overfitting issue. Meanwhile, the R-square and the adjusted R-square of this regression model were both low, indicating low accuracy of these models.
So now we move on to our decision tree models. So here we employed a decision tree regressor for continuous data as opposed to classification. And we carried out a number of grid search CV iterations in quest of better hyperpredictors. We divided our data into 25% validation and 75% training sets. For like percentage, we discovered that the best hyperparameter values were max step 8, minimum impurity decrease 0.001, and minimum sample split equals to 72. The mean squared error, absolute error, and R-squared score for the training data were 19.76, 3.58, and 0.202 respectively. The R-squared score of 0.12 and mean squared errors of 19.18, 3.45, and 3.45 on the validation data. So as we can see, the difference between the two R-squared of 0.25091, which shows some overfitting. So we discovered that the ideal hyperparameters for Metacritic score was a max depth of 6 and minimum impurity decrease of 0.0001 and a minimum sample split of 50. Our mean squared error on the training data was 85.73. Our mean absolute error was 6.775, and our R-squared score was 0.41. On the validation data, we had an R-squared score of around 0.16, a mean squared error of 1356.3, and a mean absolute error of 8.09. So overfitting was evident because the two R-squared scores were differed by 0.25091. So we can put that our decision tree models outperformed our regression models, but we still were hampered by overfitting. Now, if we come to conclude what we can draw from our results of running the models. So here we have taken the top significant predictors of the training data. Here we can infer that games are hugely impacted by the quantity of reviewers. So the more reviewers our company managed to get, the more successful our game can be in terms of making revenue. Secondly, if the games with multiplayer options and downloadable content and free to play have the most popularity. So taking that into account would also help in boosting our sales. And thirdly, popular genres like casual racing, sports, and strategy video games does appear to have a beneficial effect on the sales. And finally, supporting Mac OS in addition to Windows also can be a key factor in helping revenue. Uh, After this, if I look at the top features from our decision tree model, we can say that games with the most DLC availability, along with simulation in simulation genre, helps to gain the maximum revenue, as these two have the highest importance metric if we look at the chart from the decision tree model. But along with this, it's also important to see that we need to include other popular genres as well, like action, adventure, strategy, and RPG, which can give the portfolio of Hitstar INC a more diverse outlook, and it will help us to reach out to a wider audience. And last but not least is platform support. Even though the significance score might show as a 0.000, but I feel that giving platform support to the games would help our game to reach out to a wider audience and help us be successful. Thank you.